Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lex, and I would greatly appreciate it if you want to support me, if you want to support the channel, if you would consider liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. It helps to get the videos out there. It inspires me to keep creating. It just lets me know that you guys like the content. Before we begin, I do have a vlog channel. I am planning to upload my first vlog, well, technically my second vlog, on that channel on Friday. So if you are interested in what I'm doing outside of my life, I should say outside of commentary stuff here, you can check that out here. There'll be a picture here and also a link in the description box. Today, we are going to talk about Married at First Sight, episode 6, season 18, episode 6. And we are titling this, It's a No for Juan and Ikechi, because those two have all but let us know this episode that they do not, and I mean they do not, period, like their partners. Let's get into it. So, we start off the episode seeing that David had wrote Michelle a note because he was going to run some errands and he wasn't going to be back by a reasonable time, rather than sending a text message. He said he wants to really switch it up. He always sends a text. So we get a little cam of the note on the counter. He's really trying to improve his communication with Michelle. Now, David, you are not the one in this relationship that needs to improve the communication. Carla and Juan, so they are cleaning their apartment.
It's up to you, but just don't burn it down.
How do I work this?
Wait a second. Ignite. Hold it on ignite. There you go.
And they're just going around. They're getting ready for the party. They're planning to have a toga theme for their party. Carla's trying to light the gas stove, and she does not know how to light a gas stove. And Juan has about had it. He is like, ignite. Like, put it on ignite. The crazy thing is, Carla is not the first person I've seen. I know people who do not know how to use gas stoves. I've lived in apartments with someone who literally did not know how to use a gas stove, to the point where they called the maintenance when I wasn't home, and the maintenance had to tell them, did you put it on ignite? So apparently a lot of people have just grown up with electric stoves in their life. And the crazy part is, for like the latter part of my life, before I moved out by myself, when I was like an older teenager cooking, I had electric stoves, and I still knew how to use a gas stove. So I don't know. Now, Juan says he wants to call their little get-together that they're having at the apartment a gala because it sounds elegant. Juan is so fake. Like, Juan is a fraud. You who left a comment in my comments saying Juan is a fraud, you are so right. You are so right. Juan is a fraud, let me tell you. So, Juan proceeds to go clean the bathroom, and he says that he loves cleaning the bathroom. It's his favorite task. Well, I love that, because I surely do not like to clean the bathroom. That's probably my least favorite task in my house. Cleaning the bathroom, and then if there's dirty dishes in the sink, cleaning that, ugh. Those two just both disgust me to no end. Carla is saging the apartment, of course. So Emem and Ikechi, they are also preparing for their party. So Emem is basically letting Ikechi know, like, yeah, I never made fish tacos, so I ordered some. And he's like, why you didn't say anything?
Why not?
Because you've already done the grunt work.
What happened? I thought you wanted to make it. What happened?
I mean, you got.
I could have made the fish tacos. And she's like, oh, sorry. I didn't know that you did that, or you know how to do that before. He's like, it's literally just breaking up fish and putting it in the tacos. Like, Akechi has all kind of attitude right now. Like, calm down. Like, I feel like he is so rude. She's like, okay, I mean, you could have communicated that you wanted to cook the fish tacos. Like, he had all kind of attitude for no reason. So she lets Ikechi know that she is inviting her cousin. Remember her cousin from episode 1 who was grilling Ikechi, but I loved it. I loved that he got down to business and was like, make this make sense for me because it don't make no sense. Ikechi's like, okay, I'm not really sure how I feel about that. He was a bit aggressive, so I'm gonna be honest, I don't feel that comfortable. And that's Ikechi's new favorite word. Apparently, Emem and her whole family are aggressive, according to Ikechi. Now, she's like, so, okay, how do you feel now then, since you guys haven't had a chance to talk, since you haven't had a chance to see each other? He's like, I mean, look, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know that I feel the most comfortable. He's like, for the record, though, I ain't scared, though. I ain't scared of nobody. It's like, calm down. Ain't nobody like, calm down. So Michelle and David, They're also at their apartment preparing. Now, Michelle says that they have way more fun in group settings. Is that true? Do y'all even hang out when you're not filming? He does ask how it's going to work with this whole thing since they don't at all talk during the week. Apparently, we find out that they do not talk, period, during the week, which I expected that. Like, if I'm being honest, I'm actually surprised that they are living in the shared apartment together and just sleeping in separate rooms because I would have thought Michelle would have been home at her apartment, if I'm being completely honest with you. He also brings up that she never responded to the note that he left on the counter, and she's like, okay, well, sorry, like, did you want me to write a note back?
I'll just maybe a text message or something saying, you have a great day too. Like, I just think in a relationship, in a marriage, that if I didn't leave that, you didn't.
And it's like, damn. All these people are they got so much attitude. He's like, no, but at the same time, like, there was no response. I didn't really know where you were. In a relationship, it would be nice to get some kind of response or check-in. And she's like, okay, well, you didn't come home last night if we're going to talk about, communicating about where we're at and things like that. And he's like, okay. Like, and it's like, damn, Michelle, like, oh my. She's like, okay. So they keep talking for a little while. And he's like, well, I tried to say goodnight to you the other night. I tried to say that and you never responded to that either. And so, of course, once again, David is very frustrated. He doesn't really know what to do, how to communicate with Michelle. Of course, Michelle is still irritated at every little thing that this man does because she doesn't like him. So let's keep going. Madison and Allen, they are bonding over time at the gym. They're doing some kind of climber machine.
And held accountable. It's a lot.
Yeah.
But
No, but I got to give you props. I mean, you could show how your regimented style and, your discipline and everything kind of shines through.
I'm not a gym girly, I'm gonna be honest. My exercise of choice is walks and hikes, personally. But I've never seen that machine, okay? But it was some kind of climber machine. Now, Madison says that she needs her cardio to be regimented. And he says he loves that because it shows that, her discipline shines through. It shows her motivation. And it inspires him to stand up and be a better person. So she's like, look, I don't want to think that you're just making all of these different changes for me. I still want you to be who you are. I don't know why they all continue to say that when their partner wants to make small changes for them. Their response is, well, I don't want you to change yourself into a completely different person for me. Like, I still want you to be yourself. And it's like, it's not abnormal, Madison and Michelle, because they're the big ones that say that. It's not abnormal to make small changes in your life for your partner. Like, that's not that abnormal, but they act like it is the weirdest thing. He says, look, like, overall, this inspires me to do better. Like, you have inspired me to be a better person. And more so, coming here to the gym together, we get to spend quality time. And I really like that. So Camille and Thomas, they are on the way to Thomas's brother's house. They're having a pool party over there. They get to the party, everyone's greeting each other, and Thomas asks one of his friends to grab 2 beers, one for him and one for the grill master, his brother. And Camille's like, what about your wife, though? And they're all like, well, what about your wife, bro? So anywho, that started a little something. So they're all sitting down at the pool. They're all sitting down at the pool chatting. And Camille, they ask each other, like, okay, what have you learned about Camille? What have you learned about Thomas? So Thomas lets us know that he has intentionally written down different things about Camille because in his previous relationships, he has had an issue with remembering things about his partner.
he definitely likes Thai food, Mexican food, Italian food. Favorite color is baby blue. Those are some of the top takeaways right now.
So they start to talk about attraction. And once again, they get onto this conversation about how Thomas is typically lighter skinned than Camille's typical type, both physically and they go to say like emotionally, I believe, which I was like, yo, relax on this. She talks about how she goes for more showboat, more loud. Now, Thomas's friend does speak up and say that it seems like Camille is a lot more genuine than most people that Thomas has dated, as well as, she's kind of the first person that didn't want anything from him, want to date him for a specific reason, or expect him to like change parts of himself, which I thought was kind of funny because that last part is not true. And they do talk about how they haven't gotten intimate yet, but they are getting closer. They've turned a corner. They are having deeper conversations. So they're making progress. So now Camille's friends pull Thomas aside and they discuss once again the cultural concerns.
So culturally, she's expressed that it's a concern for her. How do you feel about that?
Honestly, I don't really see where the difference is. I think she just said...
So he's like, I'm going to be honest, I don't really see the difference. Like, yeah, we grew up in different neighborhoods, but it's not like significantly different from her neighborhood. And again, Camille is acting like she grew up in like the middle of like an urban, I don't even know. Like Camille, I don't know. She's acting like she grew up in like the hood or something. It's very strange. And it's like, Camille, you are clearly a suburban Black woman as well. You clearly grew up in the suburbs. That is very obvious. So did I. I grew up in the suburbs of Massachusetts. Like, and I get what's happening with Camille, especially this episode and especially listening to her sister talk. We'll get into it, but I get it because I feel like I had a Camille moment in my life and then I got over it. But overall, he says to her friends that he doesn't feel like this cultural differences is really a concern. He just thought that she was being honest about some of her differences or some of the differences she believes they have. So Thomas's brother pulls Camille aside and is like, so can you be a little more specific about what you think the cultural differences are between you guys? And she's like, well, I guess where we grew up. Also, like, I don't know, he mentioned that you guys frequent a bar that is known for like racial incidents. And it's like, Camille could not answer this question. Like, again, I think that Camille is more so talking a lot about Thomas's confidence, Thomas being a leader, his demeanor, and she's putting it under the guise of them having cultural differences. But I just feel like it's all coded language with her because she can't even answer the question. Your only answer is a bar you guys frequent is known for racial incidents. I'd like to know what bar. I'm sure Reddit already dug that up, but it just goes to show like it's all nonsense. It's all blowing smoke, So Juan and Carla, they have a toga party and Yinka, I was gonna say Camille's friend, Carla's friend walks in and why was Juan acting like that? I feel like Juan was very like standoffish. He was very stiff. He's like, I'm Carla's husband. And Yinka's like, oh, hi. Like, how are you? He's like, I'm Carla's husband. Like, why was he like that? They sit down and talk, and Juan does say that he says a lot of off-the-wall stuff, but he says, Carla, you gotta check me, though. And again, I love how he always puts the onus on Carla to have to rein him in, to have to deal with his behavior, to have to tell him how to act. There's never accountability on his end for the rude stuff he says, the insensitive stuff he says. It's all on her. You need to make sure you do this for me. Now, he says he cannot predict what's going to make her mad always. Which I think, again, was just weird. And he even threw in at some point, even the experts told you that you need to tell me, you need to give me a heads up. And it's like, I don't know. I just feel like Juan is very much putting it on her and not taking any onus for himself. So they go split off, obviously. Juan goes to Carla's friends. Carla's friends go to Juan. So Carla's friend, he was like to Carla's friend, do you want to sit down? And she's like, no, I'm good standing. I don't know. I feel like everybody in this party was very rigid because obviously there's an issue with Juan and Carla and but it was just very awkward. I feel like this whole party, every single person was so rigid towards one another. So he does tell Carla's friends that he still has a lot to learn about Carla. And right now, the biggest thing is their communication. So Carla's friend says, look, with Carla, even the small things will make her happy. She's like, do you compliment Carla ever? And he's like, No, I mean, I feel like I show love through like maybe other ways, but I don't want to take it too far by giving her all of these compliments right now. So I'm not really complimenting her. We're not at that spot yet, which again, we clearly see in this episode, Juan not feeling it whatsoever. Now, Carla's friend does let Juan know that Carla feels like Juan is not 100% in it right now, based off of the fact that he doesn't really compliment her. There's not really a lot of intimacy, romance, things as such. So he says, look, I got 2 startups and a full-time job, which now it's 2 startups. I thought it was only 1 startup, but now it's 2 startups and a full-time job. So it's not that he forgets about Carla, but he's also like super tired during the day. And when he gets home, he's just really exhausted. And it's like, excuses. I mean, it was obvious to me. Like, I just feel like they had good banter, but the romantic chemistry, it never really felt like it was there with those two. I think Juan got very, very turned off by the fact that, one, Carla wants to be a stay-at-home mom. You know, she really seems to want this provider type that is not Juan. I think a lot of the energy stuff has weirded him out. I just think that personality-wise, they don't really have a lot of similarities. So it's not that crazy that they are here, the 2 of them. So David and Michelle, they have their party. They break off almost immediately. David does talk alone with Michelle's friends. And David's like, look, I know that I have to change and I am willing to change a lot of different things about me. Now the friend says, okay, but if you keep changing everything about yourself, you're going to be a totally different person. Again, I don't get why all these people keep saying this. Stopping smoking cigarettes because it's something terrible, which, let's be honest, he should have been stopped doing that because his mom went through lung cancer. But okay, if he wants to stop a clearly bad habit, it's like, I think these people say this because they want to have reasons to dislike their partner, right? If he stops smoking, it's like, what is the reason then that you don't like him? You don't have one. If he decides he's going to move out of his mom's house tomorrow, what are the reasons? You don't have one. These people don't want them to stop the bad habits because they want to be able to say, I have this list of reasons that a lot of people would likely agree with to say they don't like these people. I'm on to all of y'all. So he says, look, like, I don't want to necessarily change my whole self, but I'm changing because I want to compromise in my relationship. I want to compromise in the marriage. So Michelle is also talking with David's friend.
I want to have to like not spend my money the way I want to spend it, and like
I get it 100%.
yeah. Like why wouldn't he have, like, before me, why hasn't he done?
And she says, look, I never wanted someone that was not on my level to be married to. And it's like, girl, the audacity. Imagine living in that tiny ass 1-bedroom apartment, dragging other people. Like, look, David done capped about that apartment. Let's be so for real. But it's like, you live in that tiny 1-bedroom apartment talking about you a boss babe. You worked your way from the bottom. Girl, you live in a standard apartment. And I'm not dragging her because rent's expensive. But the friend actually asks Michelle, how much do you pay right now? $2,350. Girl, it's not like you're out here paying $3,000-$4,000 for a penthouse. $2,350 is a very standard rent for an apartment. And again, congratulations that you can afford that. I don't want to act like everyone can just afford that because that's not the case. But it's like, girl, you are out here acting like you are living in a New York penthouse, trying to act like you're so above this man. And it's just crazy. So he does, as I said, the friend asks, if she's renting, how much she's paying. And then he says, look, well, you know that renting is throwing away money, right? Like, for me, I have invested in properties, I own properties, and David is living at home, stacking up his nest egg, and you're renting, and that's throwing away money. And you know that, right? Michelle was low-key speechless. And now, one thing again that I want David and Michelle to talk about is finances. Because I really want to know if it's true that David is saving money. I'm going to keep it real. Something tells me that he is not. But at the end of the day, I think it is a fair point. Renting is throwing away money. And like, I rent, so I'm not trying to act like, But I'm just saying, renting is throwing away money. And boss babe Michelle knows that because she was speechless during that conversation. they flash back to the conversation with David and Michelle's sister and friend. And the sister tells David, look, like, we grew up very different than you did when it comes to marriage. Like, our parents split up. Our dad remarried twice. So for us, it is really a lot with marriage. We come in really afraid. Whereas David, you know, his family and his parents have been married for years. So he's a lot more open to it. At least they try to explain that as the reason that Michelle is apprehensive. Now, he's like, okay, so what can I do to try to kind of bridge this gap? And they're like, well, maybe you could try something that's more her style. Like, I don't know, the workout classes she likes. Yeah, they telling you, David, to go to Pilates, go to bar, whatever she does. You know, she does solid core or something. You know she does those pricey classes. But, you know, overall, they're like, yeah, maybe try something more that she likes. Poor David, because none of this stuff will ever work. But flashing back to the friends, to Michelle and the friend, she tells his friend that she knows that he is trying way harder. David is trying way harder than she is. She feels really, really bad. And the friend is like, yeah, but you have to keep in mind, like, how much longer can he keep giving his all before he just kind of gives up on things? So, again, I think a lot of their conversations are blowing smoke. I do like how the friend challenged Michelle, because I feel like David does not challenge her and say anything, and he doesn't want to rock the boat. But I like how the friend was like, I don't know, you are out here acting like you are some guru, but you rent an apartment. And again, I'm not dragging anyone that rents, because I rent, but I just do think that it is fair that you can't be sitting here dragging somebody else. If it is true that David has a lot of money saved up, babe, he's in a better position than you are. If it is true, which I'm not 100% buying that that's true, but if it is, so again, Michelle has a lot of nerve. Camille and Thomas.
Yeah, you know, like we got to phrase it differently or things like that. Just, you know, it does mean a lot to know that you're still open to that.
So they talk after the meetup that they had at Thomas's brother's house. And he says he was happy to learn about the people that she's dated in the past. He's like, I'm gonna be honest, I was a bit shocked. I thought you would have dated more light-skinned people because you are light-skinned. I called you. Michelle. Camille was offended. I would have probably been offended as well if somebody came up to me and was like, hey, I thought you would have dated more dark-skinned people because you're dark-skinned. Like, I feel like Thomas is one of those people who says things and he like slips of the tongue and like he doesn't mean it the way it comes out. But I would have been a little offended. Camille was like, what is that supposed to mean? So you think because I'm light-skinned, I would have dated light-skinned people? And it's like, girl, it's not that abnormal that people date people who are of a similar skin tone to they are. Like, it's like a stupid assumption, but it's also not the most outlandish assumption either. Like, I don't know. Especially for her. She has a lot of nerve to be upset when it's like, this whole time you've been dragging this man for being biracial and growing up in a white neighborhood. You've been dragging him and calling him non-black and every single thing. You can critique him, his race, and his blackness, but when he makes one assumption about you, it's like, how dare he could say something like, be for real, Camille. Be for real. So she asks him if he's had any long-term relationships with black women specifically. And he says, yes, my first girlfriend out of college, she was a black woman and we dated for a substantial amount of time. And she's like, oh, so I imagine that she came from, you know, a neighborhood that was black and like you came from the white neighborhood. So, you know, how was that with her coming from that neighborhood? And he's like, well, I'm gonna be honest, she came from a neighborhood kind of like yours and it wasn't that different. And again, Camille is literally acting like this is a white man. Like, what is wrong with this woman? She is literally acting like being black is an exclusive club and he's on the outside. Like, girl, what is wrong with you? Like, I'm serious. What is wrong with this woman? Because I like how Thomas is like, I mean, it wasn't that different. Like, she grew up in a neighborhood like yours and we were fine. And that's the thing. I like how now he's bucking back and being like, you literally didn't grow up in a neighborhood that was that different than mine. Like, because it's too much. Like, I don't know who Camille thinks she is. I do not know what kind of person Camille thinks she is. But girl, you look like you grew up in a white neighborhood. Your demeanor, your behavior, your style choices give that you grew up in a white neighborhood as well. So I don't know. You talk about your diverse neighborhood, Camille, but it's not giving that either. Nothing about you is giving that. Anyway. So Akechi and Emem, they are sitting down with their friends. Akechi's cousin's there, or Emem's cousin is there, sorry, his wife, and then a couple of Akechi's friends are there. So they ask if they came away from the honeymoon feeling more connected. She said that she feels like she can be more vulnerable, put her walls down. Akechi feels like he did get someone who's motivated, someone where things flow easily, feels like a partner. So in that regard, he feels good. Now, they asked them to give 5 words to describe each other.
Very passionate, ambitious, a little aggressive.
Okay.
Elaborate.
Ikechi says beautiful, very passionate, ambitious, and aggressive. A little aggressive. Ikechi proved every single assumption that I had about him this episode. Every single one. That man don't date black women. And that man does not like black women. He is one of those fake, wishy-washy, I'm super black, I'm pro-black, that hates black women. And hates black women particularly. That man don't like him of no black woman. This episode gave me all I need to know. And what I know is that that man does not like him a black woman whatsoever. He is one of those fake new blacks who decided that he's gonna be blackity black, pro-black, every black yesterday. It's the new personality for him. Cause we are not calling for you to be somebody who says that you are so deep into black culture, you love being black. You should know the nuance of calling a black woman aggressive. We have not seen one time on this show that Emem has been aggressive. Nothing. She has not raised her voice. She hasn't cussed nobody out. We've seen Carla have more explosions on this show than Emem has. So for him to call her aggressive, I was like, excuse me? And even in that moment, when he called her aggressive, she didn't react. She didn't flip out. She didn't cuss him out. She sat there and she was like, aggressive. Okay. He says once again that he is used to a more laid back person. You know, he's from the South and Emem's from Chicago. So he's not used to all that in your face stuff and feeling like he's in an interview. Sir, 2 minutes ago, you said that your conversations flow well. You feel like she's a partner. Everything flows well. You don't have to try. Now, all of a sudden, she's aggressive and she's constantly interviewing you and she's always in your face. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. And what is this all about? You from the South, so? As somebody whose family is from the South, baby, I got a lot of aggressive people in my family that are from the South, that are from North Carolina. They from the South, and they aggressive. What are you talking about? Because you're from the South? What are you talking about? What is Ikechi talking about? So, Emem gives her 5, and she says, smart, laid back, calm, creative. And what is the opposite of like, she's like, what is the opposite of like, you know, really rigid or whatever? And she's like, and they're like nonchalant. And she's like, yeah, nonchalant. And he's like, I don't like the connotation of nonchalant. And she's like, well, I don't like the connotation of aggressive. As you should, sis. Tell him. He's like, well, you know, that just makes me sad. She's like, okay, but if you think I'm aggressive, then I can think you're nonchalant. Yes, ma'am. So she's like, y'all got to stop calling black women aggressive, because Keiji and the cousin get into a little conversation and he's like, okay, well, if you think she's aggressive, like, what are you? Because you're clearly very chill. So somebody has to be aggressive in this relationship. She's like, y'all have got to stop calling black women aggressive. You must know the connotation of that. And Keiichi's like, don't get me wrong, I can lead, but if you know something more than me, then I'll let you be the leader. You can lead like Ikechi? Because so far, all we've seen you talk about is how you live a meager lifestyle. You don't have as much money as her. Now you're calling her aggressive out of nowhere. So really, Akechi, what have you brought to the table that shows that you are a leader? When you yourself have constantly positioned yourself under her by the way you described her and the way you describe yourself. Because I'm not seeing leader in you, sir. Okay. So she says in the confessional that she's done a lot of work to work on her vulnerability, and she's never been hurt. She's never been described as aggressive. So that really hurt her. And I completely understand that. I completely understand that, because as a Black woman, it's like people really take, if you're not like, oh my God, as being aggressive. Even here on YouTube, I've had some of y'all in my comments call me aggressive, call me rude, call me hostile. And I'm like, excuse me, you are the one that came in my space insulting me first. But when I reply, I'm aggressive. And so I totally get where she's coming from, where it's like, I get that. Same thing with me. No one in my personal life calls me aggressive, ever. But it's like people who don't know you, that's their first thing to jump to. And as a Black woman, if you're an opinionated Black woman, if you're a Black woman that stands firm in your beliefs, that stands firm in who you are, the first word that a lot of people like to use is aggressive, angry. So for Em being a dark-skinned Black woman and being marked as aggressive, I can absolutely understand where she was coming from, how she felt, how offensive that really is. So, Akechi then says, well, two independent people coming together as one is challenging. We both work really long days. Her cousin's like, no offense, but you sound boring. Why Em's cousin was like, you sound like a bore. And the wife chimes in and is like, his wife chimes in and is like, look, you need to make intentional time to get to know Em. You can't just sit here and say that you have work and you're busy. You have to try. Like, you two don't know each other, so you have to put that work in. So the cousin eventually is like, so what is the future going to look like with you guys? Sharing bank accounts, health insurance, all of these different things. When you get married, all of a sudden these things become one. Akechi's like, well, I don't think everyone thinks like that, which, okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, I can agree with that not every single couple does that, but I think a lot of couples do. So, Now the cousin asks, do you see yourself falling in love with Em? Do you see yourself together? He does not answer, for the record. Akechi's like, he's like, well, I could see myself enjoying her in the future and loving her, maybe. And the cousin's wife once again clocks it and says, look, you cannot keep using time as an excuse not to get to know Em, period. And I liked how they clocked him, because Akechi is on some BS. All he does is talk BS. This man is here to sell that book, Letters to My Wife. I guess it's $9.99 on Amazon. That's what I heard on another review. That is $9.99 Kindle edition or something like that. So, Akechi says at the end of the day, he is here for Em and he's not here to appease them, meaning her family. Every single prediction I had, Akechi just proved to me that I am right. I've seen his type before so many times. Never fails. So Madison and Allen, she decides to make him breakfast. She makes him pancakes. And she's basically like, yeah, I'm going to need you to leave the house today because I'm having a spa day for the girls. And yeah, you can come back at like 4 o'clock. But it turns out that she's actually planning a surprise party for his birthday. So their little get together is going to be a surprise party for him. So Camille and Thomas, they meet with Camille's sister.
Grew up in different areas, but they're not so much different because I didn't grow up like in like some like small town or anything like that. So, but I do think we have differences in how we interact and things like that because of.
So Thomas lets her know once again that he learned that he is not Camille's typical type. Camille says, maybe I should have led with that I typically date different skin tone, different mannerisms, etc. So she wanted that to be an explanation for why she's moving slower in the relationship, but it's not necessarily a deal breaker. So Camille's sister is like, to Thomas, when you hear cultural differences, what do you think of? And he says, look, like, I know that we grew up in kind of like different towns growing up, but like, I'm gonna be honest, it's not all that different. So Camille's sister, and I guess she studied Black studies, and I did like her approach. I think she explained this extremely well. You could tell she, has studied Black studies, but she explains like, look, like, you guys can identify any way you want, whether you want to identify as a Black couple or whatever the case is. Everybody has different worldviews and different experiences, and it's all about getting to know each other and how you specifically want to identify. So she gives a specific example of their brother. She says, look, we are biracial, which, funny enough, she hones in on how he's biracial. And it's like, girl, we already know that she's like, they are literally the same skin tone. Like, that doesn't obviously mean that they are biracial, but I think we assume that Camille is biracial. But yeah, she explains, like, they are biracial, and their brother does not feel the need to identify as Black, because he, they're biracial, and it's not, they are Black, they are white, or I don't know what their other race is, I presume white. So he doesn't feel the need to go around being like, I'm a Black man, I'm a Black man, I'm a Black man. And she goes on to explain further that, as a Black woman, it does look different, because oftentimes men, including Black men, can lead with being a man in spaces, and that precede, like, even being Black, just being Black alone. Whereas as a Black woman, you don't necessarily get that same luxury of detaching Blackness from being a woman. And I liked her explanation. I do think her explanation holds some merit. I think it is a very generalized statement. And I do think that Black men in the world absolutely go through typecasting, stereotyping, all of those different things. But I do agree with her on the point that, yes, as a Black woman, there is no detaching being a woman. It's like the Blackness is always seen first, whereas sometimes men do get the opportunity to just go in as men. So I got what she was saying, and they just had a good conversation about race and identifying. And again, I just think Camille, I understood, especially when she confirmed that they are biracial. Camille is having that moment where she decided that she wants to be blackity black, black, black. Okay, maybe in her life, she kind of went through her life not really identifying as anything, but Camille is in her blackity black, black, black stage. So she feels like she needs to always be the Blackest, and make sure that it's clear that she is Black. She loves being Black. And again, I wouldn't even be surprised if some of y'all commented this in my comments as well, that if Camille was accused of not liking Blackness, if Camille was not necessarily in with the Black girls the way she wanted to be. So I definitely see and understand a lot more of Camille now. So Madison and Allen, they surprise him with a surprise party. It's all good. They break off into the little groups to talk. So Camille, I don't know why I'm mixing up everyone's names today. Sorry, y'all. Madison's friends ask if he sees why they put them together. And he says, yeah, she's open-minded, driven, optimistic. He says for him, he typically has a slower paced life, and he doesn't always want to hit the gym every day. Sometimes he just wants to have like a Netflix and chill day. Me too, Alan. Me too. He asked if they think that she would be willing sometimes to just have more chill days together. Everything doesn't have to be a regiment, a routine. And they tell him that for the right person, she'd be willing to, but they don't know when exactly that would be. So Madison tells Alan's friends that she needs to know still if they have compatible core values. They do ask if Alan met her expectations, and she says, look, like, she doesn't actually answer the question, first of all. She just kind of skirts by the question, but she's like, well, the thing is, Alan doesn't really give me a lot of feedback on me, so I don't know. I know I'm not perfect, and it would be nice to kind of hear some more of what he's thinking about things. His friends say, well, look, you have to realize that guys kind of look past a lot of things that you guys as women might see. So, just understand that he is trying, and he's a guy that is willing to build. You can build him up, he is willing to, make changes and be that husband that you may want. And she says, look, I do realize he is trying. He's gone to the gym with me. Like, I do want to acknowledge that. Now, going back to Allen, he says, I think me and Madison kind of have different ways of looking at social life and things like that. He's like, I always try to invite her to stuff that I have going on. You know, I just want her there, but she's not really the same way. He talks about how she went out with her friends last night and to like the game or something, a baseball game, I think it was. And she didn't invite him. And so he feels that maybe because she hasn't been in a relationship for a while, she doesn't really remember how to do things as a pair. And he just wants to feel like she wants him there. I will say this, as somebody who is married, I think there is a balance with that. I don't necessarily think that every single solitary activity you do, you need to invite your partner. I actually do think it is important to have time with your girlfriends or time with your friends. And then you can also have group activities that everyone does. You can merge everyone together. And I think there needs to be a balance. In the case of Madison and Allen, it very much seems like Madison has gone out multiple times and not invited Allen ever. So that I could see being a red flag, but I don't inherently think it's a red flag that Madison wanted to do an activity with just her and her friends. And I think it was taking it a bit far, being like, oh, she hasn't been in a relationship, so she doesn't remember how to include people. Because I don't necessarily think that he has to be a part of every single thing, in the same way that I don't think he has to invite her to every single thing if he doesn't want to. And I don't think that proves that she doesn't want him there. I think, again, it is okay to have time with your friends alone, and it is healthy to have time with your friends alone. So I'm a little in the middle on that because I would have to see more of what's going on. But of course, based off what we've seen on the show, it seems like she constantly is going out and he's never really a part of it. So anyway, they ask, well, going back to Madison and his friends, they ask her, can you see the two of you guys together in the future? And she says, well, I don't really have a solid answer yet, as expected. Again, I think Madison is another one who's always like, I don't want him to change who he is. I don't want him to do this. I don't want him to do that. I will give Madison credit where credit is due. It does seem like she's trying more than Michelle is trying. And I have a little trouble reading Madison still as, you know, is she actually into this? Is she actually giving this a shot? Is she just riding it out? But I do think it was nice that she planned a party for him. I do think, you know, with the friends stuff, we would have to see more. So Michelle and David. So this is after their party. So she asks if David needs any help. He says, no, sit down, relax, do you. David wants to prove today that he can cook. So he wants to cook a dinner for Michelle and just do the entire thing. Now, he says he's been super sore going to the gym, doing legs with Madison. He's just making small talk. And she's like, wait, when did you go work out with Madison? Which I called you. It's a little weird. I know that the couples typically hang out. We know that two couples swap. I'll just say that. So he's like, oh, yeah, the other morning, like, I just kind of did legs with her at like 6 a.m. Sorry, I didn't mention it. So he says that her friend said she came in with a checklist of different things and he's not it. He tries to kind of bring up what they talked about in the conversation. She's like, okay, so didn't you have one too then?
All right. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Immediately defensive. He's like, yeah, I mean, physically, I guess, but not like financially or whatever. She's like, okay, so you have one too. And by the way, I had more than just financial stuff that I wanted, like, okay. So he says he is still holding out hope that down the line, they can build a connection. And, you know, he even tries to throw in a little compliment to her outfit. He's like, I like that outfit, by the way. And she's like, yeah, I can try to help you. You know, I can try to steer your fashion. She ignores it and switches the conversation onto him. She's like, I can help you steer your fashion, which, is Michelle fashionable? She had a lot of nerve saying she doesn't like jean shorts. She's like, I don't like the jean shorts, not too many tank tops. And I'm like, girl, you are literally wearing a jean tank top right now. Like, the nerve to say she doesn't like jean or tank top when she had on a jean tank top. Did anyone else catch that? But they eat dinner and she compliments the food. She said the food is good. He killed it. The potatoes are good. The chicken is good. So I guess David can cook. So Carla and Juan, they're laying in bed and Carla wants to talk about affection. Because they tried to talk about affection apparently the other night, but they didn't get very far. So he says that he shows affection by cleaning up, doing stuff around the house. They gave us a little cam of him cleaning up. And I'm curious about Carla's cleanliness though, because we've seen a couple of clips of that apartment being a mess and just things everywhere. So, she says as a partner, she's like, okay, yeah, but like as a partner, what do you like for affection? Like, what do you like your partner to do to show you affection?
Like, that's what I'm asking.
Okay.
I feel like, besides this relationship, like, you can toss us to the side. This is.
He's like, well, right now I'm satisfied with what I'm getting. Like, I don't really have a lot of complaints. I don't really have a lot to say. And she's like, no, that's not what I'm asking. Like, Juan is purposely dodging this question, but Carla keeps pushing it. She's like, okay, in previous relationships, what made you feel the most loved? He's like, well, I guess acts of service, like someone doing things for me. She's like, okay, well, I really, really like PDA. Like, I really like cuddles. I like kisses. I cuddle and kiss with my friends all the time. So I would really like some more of that. And Juan's like, noted, but I'm not going to do that. Like, mentally, he's like, I'm not doing that. And again, it is very clear the rigidity in this conversation. Juan not feeling it whatsoever. He has decided he has had the ick. What the exact reason is, I feel like we don't even know yet, but he just says it's not there. So flag football, Allen, Em, and Akechi are not originally there. I do think Em shows up later. I don't know if Akechi did. So the guys talk, and David says during dinner, the conversation, the vibes were great. They were bouncing off of each other. You know, conversation flowed. He feels really happy. Now, Juan says he does not feel organic chemistry right now that Carla wants him to feel. Which I'm like, that's such a weird way to phrase it. He always puts everything on Carla. It's never just him, right? He's like, you know, she's beautiful, she has sex appeal, but I don't know, I'm just really not feeling it. Ikechi says he feels the same, where he's not super touchy-feely. He's from the South, you know, he's not so used to in this face, you know, in his face stuff that
together, and I'm just like, it's a plug and play situation. We got plugged into the situation. And she's like, yep, got him. Got my man, you know, we're good to go.
That Em does. So them two is a no. The girls talk, and Michelle does say they are doing better. There's less pressure to, you know, have things be a certain way. They don't need to fight all the time, you know. They ask her about her expert visit, and she's like, I'm gonna be honest, I blacked out during that visit. I shut down a lot. Now, Carla says for her, it feels very platonic with Juan. It feels like she's kissing her cousin. You know, they kiss cheek to cheek. Em says that it's crazy that in her relationship, hand-holding and trying to be a wife to Akechi gets her labeled as aggressive. And they're like, that's crazy. Like, we're all aggressive then, because we're all here and we all want to do this. She is very confused about what Ikechi wants out of a wife and out of a marriage, because that's not aggressive, you know, like what wouldn't be aggressive? Madison says she has not crossed over to the romance part. She said they went out last night and she did not force him to take all of the tequila shots he took. And she says it is not sexy, the amount of tequila shots he took. So she's basically implying that he was hungover or something. He got sloppy last night. And I'm like, ooh. But that's where we end, y'all. If you made it to this point in the video, that means you like the video, so I would greatly appreciate it if you would like, share, comment, and subscribe. Helps to get the content out there, inspires me to keep creating. Thank you guys so much. Check out my ultimatum videos. The next batch of reviews will be coming soon. Thank you, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Bye.